Hey, everybody, welcome back to another masterclass from Hero Home Service Marketing. This is Josh Cates, founder of the agency and author of The Marketing Revolution. And I am so excited because this is the first masterclass where we have Miss Casey Sprayberry, our client strategist, on with us. And so, Casey, welcome today and thanks for joining us.
Thanks. How's it going, everybody? Nice to meet y'all.
Hey, Casey, this was your idea, and I want to give you great credit because for those of you watching, if you don't know Miss Casey already, in her last role, the company sold at the end of last year to private equity, but in her last role, over the last 4 years, her and the two owners built a phenomenal Texas-based company from 5 million to 25 million. And she is just a master at all things home service, and especially when it comes to marketing and marketing attribution. And that's going to be the focus of the class today. We are doing a class specifically on your CSRs, and the title is Master This or Fail: How Ignoring CSR Training on Marketing Attribution Can Sabotage Your Company. I will tell you, we work with home service businesses all across the nation, and this is one of the top areas that Casey is requested to help. And one of the top areas also that we just see that you got to get right. And so we want to do a master class on this and help educate you guys. And so, Casey, let's jump straight in today. We can't wait to hear from you and just talk through this deck and your expertise in the market. So, again, welcome and let's jump into it here. So, again, just as a recap on Casey, she is a client strategist here for Hero Home Service Marketing and has quite a strong pedigree in this space. If you're not familiar with the Hero brand, we do work with clients across the nation. We're 20 years old. We are a family-founded business. We are a forward-thinking digital marketing and strategy agency, and our goal is to provide education so that you can learn, you can grow, you can run a better business. And so we love doing these kind of feature master classes for our viewers. We've got an outstanding team. A lot of our team is based in Texas, and but we do have some other great satellite offices across the nation. But our team is here to serve you and make sure you have a phenomenal business. And so let's get right into today's topic: training CSRs to master lead tracking and attribution. So, Casey, take it away.
All right. Thanks for having me, Josh. I'm super excited to be here. One of the primary things that I've been chasing for the last few years is marketing attribution and how to get it right. A lot of folks think just putting a tracking number on something is sufficient, right? However, that's a great start, but there's so many more things that we want to see. We want to look at, exactly where our customers are coming from. We also want to be able to look at the revenue generated from those calls and understand, what kind of average ticket are we getting when we have a client come in from, say, Google Local Services versus Google PPC or Facebook leads and things like that. So the biggest starting point of that is just knowing where everything's coming from so that we're able to, know what's working and what's not. And that's the number one thing is being able to measure your return on investment, right? The
Mhm.
last thing you want to do is spend money on something that is not working. And there are surefire ways to be able to check that what you're doing, you want to measure it, right? We have to measure. So one of the things that we could look at, we can look at the first touch. And I'll tell you what that looks like. What that is the customer came to you. What is the original way they reached you, right? That's first touch. Now, they may have reached you through a pay-per-click ad. And then the next time they came to you, they may have clicked on your Facebook page or they may have gone straight to your website. So there are different touches that we want to be able to look at so we know what customers are doing. We want to understand the customer journey so that whenever we're focusing on our websites and our ads, we're making sure that we're giving customers exactly what they need to be able to do business with us really easily.
Mhm.
Um, and so for when it comes to HVAC and home services in general, it's just super important that we are maximizing our spend. We want to make sure because Google Ads can be expensive, right? We want to make sure that every dollar you're putting in, we know where it's going. We
Mhm.
also need to be able to understand those channels that are driving the best leads. And that's like I said, we're able to take those leads, tie the revenue to it, and then break it down and have a look at what our average is on sales for those different modes. And then also just improving your customer experience. You want everything. I've always said, we want to meet customers where they are and do business with them the way they want to do business. So if that means booking online, having that booking widget front and center on your website, but also not forgetting you're going to have folks that want to call you. So having that phone number right there at the top as well. So there's just so many different options, but you want people to be able to pick how they're doing business with you. Um, a huge thing is the role of the CSR. So when I came into my company, originally we were a $5 million business, and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of operational changes to get to 5 million, but to go to 25 million takes even more, right? And so I thought I was doing something between 5 and 7 million, and then we go to 10 and 12, and I'm like, whoa, this is a lot, right? And
Yeah.
so and as we grow, so does our marketing budget, and it's just that much more important. I always say, protect the dollar, know where every dollar goes. And so, when your CSRs are answering your phones, they are basically, they're your front line, right? They're going to be determining, um, what the customer's first impression of us is, right? They're going to be the one inputting the data that's going to be output in your reporting. And so if that data doesn't come in properly from jump, it's not going to be accurate, right? And so um, your marketing data is only as good as the way it's put in.
So
And
Casey,
so
let's stop there for a minute because we've worked with a lot of companies. So I think that the way you and I complement each other well is you've had massive growth for a singular company, and you know what it takes for our clients to get to 5 million, 15, 20, and beyond. The What I see is, because I've worked with my team and you on so many different types of clients, is I see what the universal threads are. So the universal thread is, well, two things. Number one, and you've talked to it, is training your CSRs, right? You were listening to calls for a client last week and you were like, eat, because, you instantly found that they were getting the leads, but the way the leads were being handled were just, unfortunately, the CSR was not trained properly to convert them to the customer. So I think training the CSR and the script and the way that they handle that first touch is important. But what I see is more important on my end as well is the entry of that data, just because we've had multiple instances where they take the easy route out, right? They just click Google as a source of lead and they don't really inquire. And so, talk a little bit about why that's so critically important. I think about, there's a quote that I love that says, I know I'm wasting 50% of my marketing budget. The only problem is I don't know which 50%. You'll hear me say that a lot. And I think it comes back to, if the CSRs are not trained to properly input data into your CRM, then a firm like ours, when we go to pull the data, are not necessarily pulling accurate information. So unpack a little bit. If I'm a business owner and I'm watching this video, what are some easy steps I can take to start correcting this now with my CSRs?
all right, so I would say the first thing is going to be making sure that your CRM is optimized so that there are not options available for your CSRs to choose if you don't want them to. And so that was something it took me a while to do, because you have to build the rapport with your team, right? To go in and start changing how they're doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
However, I found that when I removed the buckets for the catch-all, like existing customer, right? Well, that doesn't tell us anything, because we might have paid again for that customer and we need to know that. And so I removed the option to even select existing customer, because when they call in, it's telling me exactly what campaign they're calling in on, right? And so most of our CRMs, or at least our call tracking software, most of them will tell you instantaneously when the phone rings, where that call's coming from, and nothing should change. In Service Titan, for example, on the booking screen, call comes in, bubble pops up, CSR clicks it, and automatically that information goes right into the job booking. So
Hmm.
what we should be seeing is the call campaign matching what's on the job campaign. If they're different, we're not looking at accurate data, right? So a big thing is removing, kind of to sum that up, removing distracting, you know, labels, if you will, that CSRs can even pick from, and making sure that on the back end, all of your campaigns are clear and simple, right? A lot of folks may not know what GMB means, but they might know what Google My Business means, right? So
Hmm.
making sure that the way that you label your campaigns is super clear, but the more we can automate, the more accurate that data is going to be. And I know for certain that Service Titan gives us that ability. And then you have your call tracking softwares. You may have CallRail or What Converts or whatever it may be. Those
Hmm.
are the same exact way. So that data comes in 100% clear. It's making sure we're transferring that data through all the way through to the completion of that job, so that once that job closes and it populates that revenue sold, we're able to not only know it came from a Google, say a Google pay-per-click lead or ad, but that ad generated $17,000 on this install we just did. That
Hmm.
is so important to know, because why is it important? We want to replicate that. We want to do
Hmm.
that time and time again.
Well, and you'll hear me talk a lot with our customers about revenue per customer. I think cost per click, or even just clicks and impressions are kind of vanity metrics that are going away. And so the ultimate goal should be that you can truly look at revenue per customer off your advertising. Let me ask you this: how often were you meeting with your CSRs and just really drilling this down? Did you find that you kind of trained them and it was a set it and forget it, or were you constantly in front of them, refining and reminding and improving upon your processes?
So this is the beauty of sharing things with people, is you learn the hard way, right? So that the people we're teaching don't have to make all the mistakes that I've made to learn the things I've learned. And so, for the first several months that I really got serious about my marketing tracking, I thought, okay, I'll pop into the office, because I worked in the main office where everyone is, and I worked down the hall. So I could always hear the CSRs, always knew what was going on, even just from a distance, right? And so I would, first and foremost, I would, you know, meet with them, say once in a blue moon, and say, hey guys, this is what we need to do. And think that that's going to stick. It's not going to stick.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where it came down to having to go in and optimize the CRM to make it completely simplistic for them, right?
Mhm.
But also creating, maybe a screen share of showing them, hey, if this happens, this is exactly how you're going to book it. It's super easy during business hours, right? It's what happens after business hours when your calls get messy. Because there's really no one from your office. If you don't have a 24-hour call center, there's nobody from your office cleaning up that data. So that also is a whole nother thing of having your CSRs come in, and first thing in the morning, someone is responsible for call classification for after hours calls,
Mhm.
right? Because your after hours call center, they may have access to your CRM, but they may not. So what that requires is listening to calls, right? Looking to see what line that call came in on, and going in and updating that in your call records and your job records. And sometimes it can be manual, but it is worth it, because it gives you very, very clear information on, what you're doing with your marketing that's working and where it's not effective.
Mhm.
So, I found that checks and balances. I constantly stayed in the data. I stayed in the CRM, and I listened to calls every single day. And I provide feedback. You can provide great feedback in a loving, caring way and solve a problem just like that. So, um, that's the big thing, is especially if you have someone in your business doing your marketing for you, or if you're, say, a GM, or you have a call center manager, multiple people listening to calls is so important.
Mhm.
You're not only getting to hear how your CSRs are treating your customers, but we can learn, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. When a customer calls about this marketing offer, they're just not getting it. So I need to go back and I need to retrain the CSRs on how to speak about this to customers. So it really just comes down to setting your CRM up. I would call it, basically setting it up in a way that is just, they can't make things up on their own. There's not a
Mhm.
field where they can type in something random. They have to choose from what is available, and that is all, right? And then also just that ongoing training and listening to calls that can can tell you so much
Mhm.
about your business.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So, common lead sources, I don't think we need to spend much time on this, but just rehashing marketing attribution, what we're talking about there. It's a simple process. And you mentioned this, the way the CRM is set up is outlining all the channels where you're marketing: organic, paid, billboard, TV, word of mouth, door hangers, yard signs, whatever. QR codes, trucks, right? QR codes are the great resurgence post-COVID. They talk about the biggest win after COVID was the QR code. We use them everywhere, and I love them. So just making sure that your lead sources are set up. I love that you pointed out that it starts with the data and it starts with the CRM. If you outline the roadmap to success, it's going to be very easy for somebody to follow. Okay, let's talk about identifying the source of the lead and the tools that you're using and the questions that you're training your CSRs to ask in pertaining to marketing attribution.
All right. So obviously, I mean, the most surefire way to find out exactly how a customer found out about us is to ask, right?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I see that you clicked on Google here to call us, but have you seen us out anywhere else? How did you find out about us and how did you know to call us today? Right? And being able to, even in the data pools, doing matchbacks, knowing exactly who you sent mailers to, right? And knowing that there are going to be the multiple touches, but making sure that we're asking, right? And then also, when it comes to social media, right? We want to know, hey, did you find us on Facebook? Did you see a video on Instagram? Whatever it may be, but encouraging those customers to really kind of dig deep. Hey, I saw your vans, or you had a truck in my neighborhood yesterday. That's super helpful information.
Mhm.
And then also using the tools to track those leads. I mean, that is absolutely, it's vital to knowing how your marketing is doing. From the smallest company to the largest company, I cannot stress enough how important it is to make call tracking a priority in your business, because you cannot track what you cannot see, right? And so we have to know what is causing the phone to ring, right? So we keep
Mhm.
replicating it. Again, we
Mhm.
want to keep doing what's working. Also, forms. We want to be able to know when someone goes to our website how they found us, right? So we have tracking on those forms. We've also got the automated software. Sometimes they'll go through and it can tag automatically where it came from. Those are super helpful. Just a really good idea sometimes just to double check them. That's all.
Mhm.
Just double check.
Mhm. All right, Casey. So let me ask you this. So one thing that I hear a lot is, well, I have a really great number and I just want to use that number everywhere. What's your thought on a universal number when somebody still needs to implement call tracking so that they can properly track their marketing?
Sure. I mean, what's not to love about a vanity line, right? It's easy, it's memorable. However, it does not tell you where the call came from. And so managing your marketing budget is as important as managing your overall business budget, right? We need to know exactly where calls are coming from so that we can continue going in that same direction to generate more leads, right? We want to figure out, you know, if you have that number on your billboard, you have it on your van, you have it on your direct mail, you have no clue where it's coming from. And so I just strongly recommend that not only are you using a tracking number, but even put a QR code with tracking embedded in it. Then when you look in your QR code software, you're able to see, oh, I had 21 scans on this specific direct mail piece, right? And then I can go and I can look and see how many of those converted into jobs and how much revenue we can tie to those jobs.
hmm
So
So if I'm doing a direct mail piece as a home service business owner, instead of using a vanity number, you recommend using a number tied to that campaign along with the QR code.
exactly. Yes. So if you have multiple mail vendors, You need to even separate it out by your mail vendor. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. Say you have the New York Times or you have whatever newspaper it is you use. In your call tracking software, you want it to be labeled New York Times postcard. And you may even, if you send a lot of postcards out, you may even want to break it down even further to know which piece you sent out. If you have some competing offers in the market, you don't want the same tracking on those because then you don't know which offer's working well.
Right, right. Well, and then you outlined some good points here in regards to accurate data entry. I have a colleague of mine, and I love this quote. He always says, "You get what you inspect, not what you expect." And I love here that at the end of the day, this is about leadership and ownership doing their due diligence and job, because you outline here not only ensuring that the right lead source is set up correctly in your CRM, that's step number one, consistently using your CRM the right way, call tracking, but then you talk here, walk through entering the data in ServiceTitan or House Call Pro with your team. Do a real-time data entry during a call and do not avoid assumptions. So, I mean, this really goes back to this is very old school, hands-on training showing your CSRs exactly how you want that data entry to be done. I love that you point this out because, what is it? You are an educator. Is it teach not show or show not teach? What's the coined
Yes.
phrase there of you got to get into the trenches
Show.
with them and show them
That's
exactly
right.
this is how we're going to do it at this company and this is exactly why we're doing it.
Well, and it boils down to having a written process,
Hmm.
and with that process, not assuming that everyone is just going to read the words and consume the knowledge. It's having a tutorial, have a
Hmm.
screenshot of exactly what you expect, or better yet, have a recording of exactly what they need to do. They can
Hmm.
always refer back to it.
And I know that you like Loom video, and we do as well. So if you're watching this and you haven't checked out Loom, it's a great way to do training videos. What have you found are your most common challenges with marketing attribution?
One of the things is obviously, oh, I'll get back to putting that in later, right? If we have our CRM set up from correctly from the beginning, we're not having to rely on the CSR to come back and even put that information in. Now, if you're not even able, let's say your software is limited and you're not able to, um, you may not have a certain drop down menu or something like that, then you want to utilize that call tracking software in conjunction with your CRM. So your call center, they would have, the CRM open along with the call tracking software. And it can be, a bit challenging, but it's so necessary. So
Hmm.
we're looking at relying on memory, right? Get rid of that, get rid of that as an option. It should be populated on the CRM or the call tracking software that says this call came from here, right?
Hmm.
Tied to that
Hmm.
customer name, tied to that address. Okay.
Hmm.
A big one, I will say, one of the biggest challenges, and I think it took me a long time to overcome, is I love as much perfect data as I can get, but you cannot have 100% perfect data. You may have vehicles out, fully wrapped vehicles. It's hard sometimes to know if someone saw a van or someone saw an ad on Facebook or a commercial on television. A lot of times, those are just really helping to solidify your branding, right? And you can't necessarily, um, you know, attribute that, oh, this call came in from a cable commercial. They paused in the middle of watching the news, scanned the QR code, and called us, right? Chances are that probably didn't happen, but they may have seen your commercial and went straight to Google.
Hmm.
So it's about that's where asking is so important.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. Um, okay, so let's talk about we have input the data properly in our CRM. We have trained our CSRs. We're off and rocking and rolling here. What do you do next? What does it look like both internally with your team, but then also externally for the responsibility of an agency like ours to review and optimize this attribution data? What do we do with it once we get it?
So, I mean, my process may look a little different than others, but what I would typically do is I'm always going to run a report that tells me the name of the campaign that was tied to that job. I always want to have the revenue dollars that we actually collected,
Mhm.
right? And then I also like to see zip code. That's one of my favorites, because I want to see where it's happening at, right? So what I'll do is I'll compile all of that data and I'll sort them, biggest to smallest, and then I'll put them in a table and I'm able to look at them and see, okay, this month, you know, let's see on here. So the website generated $947,000, right? That's huge. That means our website is working. So what we want to do is keep on working on that SEO, right? Keep those things moving so that we keep growing as much as possible with that one. But even still, it's knowing exactly which one brought you the most revenue. That's super
Mhm.
important to look at. So I'm just going to take that. I want to know first and foremost, which was my winner, right? What was my
Mhm.
winner for the month? But also I'm going to look too, if I'm spending, because direct mail isn't cheap, right? If I'm spending a lot of money on direct mail and I'm not seeing that those campaigns are performing, that's going to tell me, if I look and I spent $45,000 on direct mail and generated 15,000, well, there's a problem, right? So I may need to look at my artwork. I may need to look at the messaging. I may need to look at the call to action. These are
Mhm.
all things that tell you what's working, what's not. And if you see something that falls off that was working, you may just want to look at it and see what changed, what
Mhm.
happened to cause that decline or
Mhm.
that increase.
Well, it kind of goes back to the client we were talking with today up on the East Coast. They were doing a heavy amount of direct mail for the last couple of years and they saw it fall off. They just very well may have saturated their market. And so they're looking at other channels. I also think about a client of ours that was in Texas and they were doing a heavy amount of TV and radio. And although the TV and radio was generating a return on their investment, it was not even comparable to their Google advertising and their website and organic traffic. So it's not even that you necessarily would be eliminating a channel. It's just, I think, it's understanding your true numbers of your business. And no matter what is referring into us, is it making us money and are we getting a return on this investment? Because you're naturally going to have some sources that are 2 or 3 times return on ad spend, and you may have some that are 11 or 15 times. But as long as it's a viable channel, I think this is the kind of data you're talking about. This lets the owner and operators know, are these channels viable and do we continue to invest in them as a
Yes,
business?
sure.
Okay, let's talk about role-playing exercises and then we'll kind of start landing this plane here. I think you've covered some great information. I hope this is very helpful to the people watching. So let's kind of wrap this up with role-playing and real-life scenarios.
So basically, one of the number one things, role playing can be really uncomfortable, but if you can role play, then and you can do it with your peers or in front of your peers, you can literally talk to anyone, right? And so my favorite thing about role playing is, you know, maybe you take your strongest CSR, and that is who we see role play first, right? They go through, they're modeling exactly how the call flow works. Hello, thank you for calling such and such. This is Casey. How may I help you today? We're smiling, we're friendly, we're kind, right? And so, and having everyone that's working, together on this role play, having everyone pull the things, okay, this was great. I want to replicate that. And so you get your strong players and everyone gets to see what it is they're doing. And so you can pick and choose what's going to work for you. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that everyone is on a similar playing field, right?
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
super polite. They are asking the right questions. They are, if we have a lead come in, right? We want to make sure if we're talking to someone that wants a replacement, that is very important information because that drives a lot of revenue. So we want to know, hey, when's your soonest availability? Awesome. Are all decision makers going to be present? Fantastic. Do you have about an hour to an hour and a half for our sales guy? I wouldn't say sales guy, but our comfort advisor to come on site and perform a heat load and make sure everything is properly sized. You're setting up the lead. So there's just certain ways to handle all your different scenarios. And some people are better at outbounding than they are with inbound. So it's knowing your CSR strengths, but you can really find a lot by your role playing, but it
I
also
love
gets
it.
comfortable.
I love it. And,
Muscle
and we
memory.
even do that internally with our team because, you know, At Hero, we're very similar to a home service business. We want our clients to receive excellent customer service from the second that they first reach out to us. And so we talk about empathy a lot and really understanding the role of our customer and why are they reaching out to us. Very similar. Why is the homeowner reaching out and how do we have empathy for that situation? And I think role playing is a great way to go through that. And so I'm glad that you brought that exercise up as something that you guys see value in. So again, just kind of key takeaways from Casey's experience today that we want to share is, the important, first of all, of your CRM and the accuracy of tracking your lead sources. If you're going to do nothing else from this video, get your CRM set up the right way, because that's the one thing Casey and I see really impacts the work that we do for all of our clients. Just so you know, in Casey's role, she pulls data from the CRM that we review with the client each month. That's kind of a unique thing to our agency and kind of unique in the space, as we take a very proactive approach to our clients' data. And so if it's not coming in the right way, again, it's going to be very hard for us to pull accurate data, and that's a lot of work to fix. So I would highly recommend investing in that, first of all, and then invest in your CSRs. They are crucial to marketing in the HVAC and home service space. And so getting that information right out of the gate is absolutely critical. So Casey, thank you again for your time and sharing some of your expertise. I know this is going to be many videos to come with you, and I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of questions coming off of this on how to set it up and templates and things that people can have that can benefit them from a resource standpoint. So I just really appreciate you making time to sit down with us today.
Absolutely. I'm super excited. Can't wait to share more.
Yes, ma'am. All right, everybody, have a great day. Until next time, this is Josh and Casey with Hero Home Service Marketing. We'll catch you on the flip side.